Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you're listening to this post. I welcome you here. We're at the Health Centre, a place that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And obviously at the moment, our Health Centre staff are so very busy in supporting all the boys at the school. The Health Centre is right in the heart of the school here. It's very handy to our junior school boys and our senior school boys, and a central part right for our boarders. It's a really important time to acknowledge the great work of our nurses that are supporting our boys in what is winter time, where we've got our normal colds, flus, our sports injuries, when we've got so many sports operating at the moment. But when you add in our COVID considerations, what our nurses are doing are so very valuable at the moment. So how about we go in and have a look at the Health Centre, and we'll talk about the COVID scenario and what our nurses are currently doing. So let's come on in and meet our nurses. Today we've got Alex, Beck and Sharon that are working in here at the Health Centre.
Hello.
I thought while we're in the Health Centre we'd explain some of our COVID procedures for both boarders and day boys. And I've got Sharon Morgan here, who's our Health Centre coordinator, who'll help us out with what some of those procedures are. So firstly, with boarders, we do know that all of our boarders do have an online check, health check each morning. And obviously our boarding house masters and house staff are keeping an eye on their wellness. But if boarders aren't well, Sharon, and they come down here to see you, what's some of the processes if we think the boys might need a test?
If they need a test, we'll isolate them and then send them off to Bally Henderson Hospital for a check.
And once the boys return back, we sort of know that it takes a little while for those tests to come back. So what happens there?
So then we'll isolate them. We've got a few places within the school we're lucky to have. So we've got a headmaster's residence that's empty right now with lots of single rooms, and also some spaces in the health centre.
Great. And I suppose then turning to day boys, obviously we prefer any day boys that aren't well, they shouldn't come to school in the first place. But if a boy does come to school and they then get unwell, typically what's happening, the teachers will send the boys here to the Health Centre. And what happens then, Sharon?
So we'll isolate them in here as well until we get in contact with the parents and get them sent home, and then request testing if fitting the category.
Yeah, and we've had lots of tests now, haven't we? Obviously with the cold and flu that's happening at the moment, it is good that we're having lots of tests. Probably one of the issues now is that it is taking a little while for our results to come back, a couple of days, is that right?
Yeah, it's up to 4 days now, unfortunately.
Yes, so what that means, unfortunately, that boys do need to remain at home until we get that clear or that negative test. And it's really important that we do know which boys are being tested. So parents, you do need to alert either the junior school or senior school that you're having a COVID test for your son, or certainly the Health Centre. We're keeping a register, and obviously we need that information once the negative test has come through and the boys are right to return to school. I guess with that increased time that it takes for the results, we are encouraging particularly our older boys to keep in communication with their teachers, especially if they're well enough to work from home, so they can keep up to date with their work. Heading to sport, Sharon, you're obviously very busy here in the Health Centre with injuries and the like as well, but with our COVID precautions as well, it's very important that for our boys, that if they're not well, they shouldn't be training, and they definitely shouldn't be playing on a Saturday. We don't want boys on a bus if they're not well, and obviously out there on the field. So it is a GPS expectation, and that's very important. I'd like to thank the parents, as always, with our cooperation on a Saturday, using the EVA check-in about your registration here on campus, but also make sure that we're practicing that social distancing always on a Saturday. We are certainly watching the COVID situation as it develops, both here in Queensland and interstate. With the border closing here in Queensland to New South Wales, we're certainly concerned for our boarding community families from those regions, and we'll be watching that space very closely and communicating clearly with our families about what that means. So we're certainly concerned, we're certainly looking for any exemptions where possible to keep our boarders at school. But Sharon, in closing, any advice for our parents from a health perspective, given the circumstances we're in?
Keep well, wash your hands with soap and water, use the hand sanitizer, and drink lots of water and stay away if you're unwell.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Keep up the great work supporting our boys and families. Have a great weekend, everyone, and stay well.